A historic shift just happened. The United Kingdom, Australia, and Canada have officially recognized Palestine as a state. Israel is furious. Some call it moral courage. Others call it rewarding terror. This might change the Middle East forever. Stay with me. What this means, why now, and what could follow. In today's video, we dive into one of the most significant diplomatic moves in recent Middle East history. The UK, Australia, and Canada have broken with tradition and formally recognized Palestinian statehood. We explore why they did it, how Israel and others reacted, whether this recognition has teeth, and what it could mean for peace, security, and global politics. By the end, you'll see the full picture, not just statements, but real implications. On September 21st, 2025, the United Kingdom, Australia, and Canada issued coordinated statements recognizing the state of Palestine. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the move was aimed at reviving the hope for peace between Palestinians and Israelis under a two-state solution. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney expressed similar views, emphasizing moral and political urgency amid the war in Gaza and mounting concerns about humanitarian crises. These three countries are longtime allies of Israel, and their decision marks a dramatic shift in their foreign policy. The recognition is symbolic, but carries diplomatic weight. It also aligns with broader international pressure and with expectations that more nations may follow suit, especially around the United Nations General Assembly meetings. Why now? The motivations behind the move. One driver is frustration over the ongoing conflict in Gaza and what many see as Northwest Bank settlement expansion. The humanitarian toll hundreds of thousands of displaced civilians. Destruction of infrastructure and rising death toll has pushed Western leaders to act. Many citizens and political parties are demanding that foreign policy reflect strong moral positions, not just strategic alliances. Domestic politics also matter. In the UK, Prime Minister Starmer had faced pressure from his own party and public opinion. He had linked recognition to conditions. Israel halting certain actions, easing blockades, engaging in peace negotiations. Australia and Canada faced similar pressures internally. The timing just before the UN meetings gives this recognition both moral and diplomatic urgency. Israel's response and criticism. Israel immediately condemned the move. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called recognition a reward to terrorism, pointing to the October 7, 2023 attack by Hamas as context. He rejected the idea of any Palestinian state west of the Jordan River. The government and many of its supporters view the recognition as undermining Israel's security. They argue that recognizing statehood without resolving issues like borders, governance, or the role of Hamas weakens Israel's negotiating leverage. Some Israeli opposition leaders also expressed concern, warning the move could isolate Israel diplomatically and inflame tensions. Pro-Israel communities abroad voiced unease. Meanwhile, families of hostages criticized it as symbolic, while still many remain captive. Israel's critics argue that recognition without commitments from all parties risks being a gesture rather than a pathway to change. Palestinian reaction and what it means locally. Palestinian leaders welcomed the move. President Mahmoud Abbas praised the recognition as a step toward legitimacy and justice. Many citizens in the West Bank and Gaza saw it as long overdue acknowledgement of their right to statehood. Activists say it corrects symbolically century-old injustices. The recognition also raised expectations that it should lead to practical improvements, more diplomatic support, aid, and pressure for peace negotiations. However, there is also skepticism. Some Palestinians fear that recognition alone may not change daily realities. Occupation, restricted movements, political division, and conflict. If promises do not follow recognition, if there's no change in negotiations or on the ground, hope could turn to disappointment. Diplomatic significance and symbolism. The symbolic weight of the move is enormous. For the UK, this recognition holds special historic burden. Britain once held the mandate for Palestine. Recognizing Palestine is seen by many as correcting past colonial legacies. For Australia and Canada, It signals that long-standing alliances are being reassessed. The decision may shape how foreign policy is conducted, emphasizing human rights and moral frameworks alongside strategic interests. This recognition is not just about prestige. It opens diplomatic possibilities. Travel, trade, cultural exchanges, and more formal status for Palestinian diplomatic missions. It also sends messages to international bodies like the UN. Countries recognizing Palestine can push for its full participation in international treaties and forums. Challenges and limits. What recognition doesn't fix, recognition alone doesn't resolve the biggest obstacles. Israel's control over borders, matters of security, the political role of Hamas, governance of Palestinian territories, and the peace negotiation process remain unresolved. Without agreements on these, recognition may remain symbolic rather than transformative. Also, recognition may strain bilateral relations, reduce cooperation in security or intelligence, affect trade, or alter aid relationships. Some countries may retaliate diplomatically or economically. Israel may push for increased rights to security or take actions in the West Bank that escalate tensions. Recognition may also face legal and diplomatic pushback. The United States, for example, has not joined this latest move. Its stance remains focused on peace negotiations, hostages, and stability. Without U.S. endorsement, many of the practical effects of recognition may be limited. Global reactions and potential ripple effects. Other countries are expected to follow. Portugal, France, and some of the EU nations may formally recognize Palestine. At the UN, speeches and resolutions are likely to gain momentum. This could shift global alignments, increase pressure on Israel, and force more concrete peace initiatives. But there is also risk. For some countries, recognition might increase domestic political backlash or diplomatic retaliation. It could also deepen divisions over what recognizing statehood means. Recognition of current territorial control, of borders from 1967, of future settlements. How to handle Palestinian political structure and control over Hamas. What this means for the peace process. For the peace process, recognition could be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it may re-energize diplomatic efforts. It could encourage Israel and Palestinian authorities to return to negotiation tables with renewed urgency. It may also spur international mediation, pressure for ceasefires, and humanitarian access. On the other hand, if recognition is viewed as unilateral without coordination, it may lead to increased tension. Trust is low. Israel may respond by accelerating settlements or asserting control in disputed territories. Hamas may also use recognition as propaganda. The balance between symbolism and substance will be crucial. Public opinion and domestic politics. In the UK, Australia, and Canada, public support for recognizing a Palestinian state has grown, driven by outrage over civilian suffering in Gaza, humanitarian concerns, and moral arguments. Political parties have shifted. Leaders now face pressure at home to align foreign policy with public values. But this also creates political risk. Governments that recognize Palestine may face criticism from pro-Israel groups, diaspora communities, and security arguments. They will need to manage both international and domestic fallout. What you should watch next. Keep an eye on several things. What actions follow recognition? Diplomatic missions, trade agreements, formal treaties, responses from Israel, including policy changes, settlements, or diplomatic retaliation. Moves by additional countries to recognize Palestine. Statements or shifts by the United States, either joining recognition or reinforcing its existing stance. Developments in peace negotiations. Whether this recognition leads to renewed talks, ceasefire proposals, hostage releases. The humanitarian situation on the ground. Whether recognition helps improve access to aid, reduces civilian suffering. This recognition by the UK, Australia, and Canada marks a turning point. It affirms Palestinian aspirations for statehood, adds diplomatic weight to the two-state solution, and pressures Israel and its allies to rethink long-standing positions. But recognition is only a start. What follows negotiations, peace agreements, justice, and human rights matters more. If this video helped you understand the stakes, hit like and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you're notified of new updates. As this story develops, share this video with your friends to spark thoughtful conversations. In the comments, what do you think? Is recognition overdue? Is it symbolic only? Or can it lead to real peace? Your voice counts. Let's talk.